Oh, you damn right. Let's get another recruiting hour to you. This on a big recruiting day in the state of Texas. It is Fasusi Day. It's all about the truth today. We're going to try to find the truth. I'm here in Adrian on the beach in Rocky 3. What's the truth, damn it? This is the guy that's going to try to get you the truth today, and that's Jason Sukumel, orangebloods.com. He is back from a crazy, wild week and weekend where he was moving kids into college. Oh, he's ready for all these commitments coming this week. Jason, how are you?
Sorry, Chad, I was on mute doing something. I am good, brother. I am somewhat recovered, like you said, from a long weekend of moving 2 kids to college. Ready for a busy recruiting week starting at 3 o'clock this afternoon. So 5 hours from now, Michael Fasusi. But yeah, I'm good, dude. Like, it's funny. This morning, I walked into my daughter's room. We moved her into her dorm room on Monday. We moved my son to college on Thursday of last week. But I walked into my daughter's room, and a little ping of sadness hit my heart, right? I'm like, oh, it's sad. Her bed's made, and her room's so cute. And like, I miss my daughter. But then I'm like, oh, wait a second. I got 2 kids out of the house, 2 down, two to go. The other 2 are off in middle school and high school right now. So like, I've got the house to myself. Am I a bad person for feeling pretty good about having kids off at school and off at college? Your daughter's what, a senior, right, Chad?
Just started the senior year, and she's an only child. So I'm going to go through it all one time and have all the happiness and sadness at once.
Yeah, dude, I mean, you'll get there. Trust me, you'll experience it, and it's a good experience. Like, you give them that hug when you're leaving the dorm room. They're like, just go, mom and dad, go home, go, and you're like, no, like, I want to stay for a minute and help you set this up and put this together. And I gave her that hug, and it's a bit emotional. And then you get to the car and you get home, you're like, all right, this is pretty nice, man. So, but yeah, moving your daughter into a dorm, you have 2 carloads of crap on a day when it was 104 degrees, not fun. But I think I'm mostly recovered from a long Monday. Yeah. So.
There you go. And it's going to be a heck of a week in recruiting, as we've talked about. We've been leading up to this week, and we're recording on this Wednesday, the 21st. Michael Fasusi and Jason, you kind of answered my first question. It is 3 o'clock this afternoon Central Time up at Louisville High School.
That's the actual announcement time. That's correct. Doors open at 2:15 or something. Not that you need to know that, but yeah, the announcement is scheduled for 3 p.m.
So just so everybody knows, we always in the recruiting hour, we'll talk about some of Jason's content on orangebloods.com. Let me just give you the quick reminder here at the beginning. The 321 article is up right now at orangebloods.com, and it's got updated FutureCasts and full explanations in there. We're going to hit some of the FutureCasts today, but just wanted to let you know about that. Jason, let's
real quick, Chad, before we get into that, sorry, 60% off right now. If you sign up on Orange Bloods, 60% off for the annual. I don't know if you have that graphic, but
that is right. You know what? I do. Let's get that up there.
Perfect. Yeah, promo code. Yeah, kickoff 2024, and that QR code right there will take you directly to the sign-up page with the promo code already embedded. So 60% off. You're talking $40 for a year's worth of Orange Bloods. You're talking what, $3 a month, $3.50 a month. So if you're not a subscriber, no better. This is like probably the best deal we're going to offer all year. So no better time to join up. Go subscribe to Orange Bloods, and I promise you'll love what you see over there.
Yeah, it's a good call there. So check out, there's your QR code. Kickoff 2024 is that code. All right, Jason, let's jump right in so people won't accuse us of burying a lead or anything. Let's start with Mr. Fasusi. As you sit here a few hours away from his announcement, what do you think it looks like today?
Oklahoma, end show, roll credits.
Goodbye, everybody.
Exactly. I wrote my 3-2-1, Chad, like just full transparency. I posted it Tuesday morning, I believe. And I knew Monday I was going to be, like we talked about, moving all day, my daughter into college. So I actually wrote it on Sunday night, which I usually write it on Monday, sometimes even Tuesday morning. But I wrote it Monday night, and I put my pick in my 3-2-1. I put Michael Fasusi to Oklahoma. My confidence level, I put 65%. And I'm just going to read this little snippet. I said, most signs have been pointing towards Oklahoma landing the 5-star tackle for the last several weeks, barring a late change, which I don't expect. I'm not expecting this one to go UT's way. I actually flipped my FutureCast pick from Texas to Oklahoma over the weekend. Well, all that is true, okay, of course. But yesterday I was like, you know what? I'm going to circle back one last time to make sure there weren't any, last-minute moves or changes. So yesterday at about 6 p.m., I started checking with people in Austin. And it was really interesting to me because people in Austin were like, we don't know. He hasn't told us. He hasn't given us any hints. We don't know. Not sure what to expect on Wednesday. So I literally said, hey, I'm going to hit up Mike Fasusi directly. And I did that. And I'll just say this. I'm not going to say too much about what he and I talked about off the record, but I don't feel good about Texas being the choice. I mean, you can read between the lines here. I think it's going to be Oklahoma or Texas A&M. I favor Oklahoma in this race. I have for a while. I mentioned my FutureCast pick is on Oklahoma. So yeah, I just think it's going to wind up being Oklahoma, and I feel pretty confident in saying it's not going to be Texas. Look, there's a reason I'm sitting here with you instead of being in my car on my way to Louisville, right? So,
right. Okay.
I just, great player, great guy. Listen, he has been. If you ask me, Chad, to say make a list of your top 10 favorite guys to ever cover, Fasusi is going to maybe make that top 10. I've been doing this a long, long time, 20 years. So there's a lot of guys I'd cover, but Mike Fasusi would be maybe on that list. He's a good dude. I'll root for him wherever he winds up, but I just don't think he's going to be wearing burnt orange.
All right, so strange side question before we move on from Fasusi. Jason, on the chat, I think on the 12 o'clock show at some point, we had somebody very adamantly, capital letters typing that it was not going to be Oklahoma. It was going to be A&M. They are going to write him the biggest check on the face of the earth, and he's absolutely going to A&M. How surprised would you be if Fasusi says A&M today?
Moderately, but not shocked, and I'll tell you why. That's a good question. I'm glad you brought that up. So last night, before I checked with sources in Austin and everywhere else, I actually hit up an Oklahoma source. And this person said, hey, Oklahoma feels really good. One person kind of connected to that program said, hey, it's pretty much a done deal. But nobody within the football offices has told anybody, media members or else, that, hey, this is a done deal, that it's locked up, okay? So Texas A&M, I think, is still in play there. And I talked to a Texas A&M reporter, and he's like, hey, I'm going to the announcement to be safe. I mean, they're still in conversations, and so is Texas, to be fair. But, I mean, he's still talking to all three schools. I mean, I'm expecting Oklahoma just because that's where all the momentum seems to be coming from and all the chatter seems to be about Oklahoma. But Texas A&M is still involved, so I won't be completely just knocked on my butt if it ends up being A&M. I mean, they're still in play there. I'm telling you, the one thing I know for certain, and I feel pretty confident saying, is I don't need to have a Texas story written. Okay, I think it's going to be Oklahoma. A&M still in play. I feel really good about saying, hey, I'm going to watch his announcement just because I'm a Michael Fasusi fan. I'm sure somebody will be streaming it or however, but I'll be paying attention to his announcement, but not from an aspect of it that it might be Texas.
Yeah. By the way, to ZOV, it was not my burner account that said that. That is not true. If there's one thing I'm not smart enough to do, it's figure out a burner account. That is not going to be happening.
Keep those burner accounts squared away from your regular account.
That's right.
That's too much work for my brain.
Michael Fasusi, big O tackle out of Louisville, is going to decide today at 3 o'clock. And again, Jason's telling you his feeling is it will be Oklahoma. So we'll see where that one goes this afternoon at 3. So I see some of you in the chat saying, wait, all right, let's not talk about Fasusi anymore. What about guys we have a chance for? What about guys that outside of that? Well, let's stay on the offensive line.
Chad, can we hit up, I'm sorry, Corleone, his comment right there? I think it's at the top of the chat.
Yes, this one?
Yes, thank you. You know what? Listen, man, I know 90% of our of our viewers or more are Texas fans. So I should probably just be like, oh, yeah, they just lost them because somebody outbid them. Same with Decorian Moore. Same with Riley Pettijohn. No, man, just stop it. Sometimes guys just want to go elsewhere. Sometimes you get out recruited. I mean, in the case of Decorian Moore and Riley Pettijohn, I mean, I heard that Texas offered more NIL money than Ohio State did for Riley Pettijohn. It's not NIL for Michael Fasusi. I mean, that may be a part of it. Sorry, I'm struggling with allergies today. That may be a part of it with Michael Fasusi, but as of last night, about 6 p.m., Texas people were still hopeful. So it's not, they would know if they just had a low bar NIL offer and Oklahoma or A&M was way higher than that. People in Austin would know that. So no, as of last night, they were like, we have no idea. So it's not just because of NIL. I'm not saying Oklahoma or A&M maybe offered a little bit more, but that's not why Michael Fasusi probably is not going to pick Texas. So yeah, I just get tired of those excuses. And it's like, I mean, listen, the guys that Texas has lost on, Pettijohn, everybody thought he was going to Texas. Fasusi, everybody thought he was going to Texas. Decorian Moore, everybody thought he was going to Texas. They just had a flip to LSU, Cade Phillips. You know, I mean, sometimes these other staffs have good recruiters too, and they have good programs. So it doesn't always only come down to NIL. And let's not always use that for a crutch as why Texas lost a guy. You know, Fasusi just thinks he has a better fit elsewhere, and that's why he's probably not going to pick Texas today.
Corleone, thank you for that chat. If you want to throw us a super chat, it'll go right to the top of the list. We're talking recruiting today, obviously, because it never stops, and it's really going this week with Fasusi today. Coming up Friday, it is this next guy that we're talking about. He was able to slip in. Before we get to the Jonah Williams thing over the weekend, big old Nick Brooks has something to say before the week ends. Jason, for a Texas fan that's thinking, all right, so if Fasusi's going to say Oklahoma and do some kind of, chuck wagon dance or whatever today, what can you tell him about Friday and Nick Brooks?
Well, it's interesting. I asked about Nick Brooks yesterday. I asked some sources about Nick Brooks. And my response, Chad, or the response was no response. And that's a little alarming whenever someone who, if they're expecting good news, you'd be like, oh yeah, man, things look great there. I didn't get a response on the Nick Brooks question. People, he's in Georgia now, but people in Georgia don't seem to know. That one's a pretty wide open. It's Texas, it's Georgia, it's USC. I can tell you that I have I haven't put it in. I need to do that actually, but my FutureCast I'm going to put in for Texas, and I have it at 70% confidence level, and that still remains. But not hearing a reconfirmation of that yesterday is a little bit alarming to me. But I haven't heard anything else to say, oh no, he's going to USC or he's going to Georgia. I can tell you about a week and a half or so ago, there was an extreme confidence in Austin. And Nick Brooks is a tricky one for me because all my information I'm having to get from third or fourth hand because Nick Brooks does not talk. Okay, believe me, I've tried. I cannot get that kid to talk. He just changed schools, so people at his school aren't really, up to date or connected on what he's going to do. So he's a bit of a wild card. Okay, he could do anything and it wouldn't surprise me. Fasusi, I have a good relationship. Jaime Ffrench, I've talked to. Michael Terry, Aidan Anding, Jonah Williams, I've talked to those dudes. Nick Brooks, I've DM'd him. I've hit him up on not Facebook. I'm sorry. I've texted him, tried calling, can't get a word out of the dude. So, so I'm having to rely on other people's information. But I'm telling you, sources in Austin feel like that one still looks very, very good for Texas. So that one's going to happen on Friday. Don't know exactly the time on Friday, but he's going to announce on Friday. I think it's going to be Texas, but here's the deal with Nick Brooks. This is a guy who visited Georgia in early June, and the rumor was that he kind of maybe silently committed. I think it was late May he visited Georgia actually, but then he visited USC in June, and people in Southern California were saying, okay, he's silently committed. I don't even know if he's going to visit Texas. Well, he ends up visiting Texas. And ever since then, it's been the chatter coming out of Austin is like, okay, things look great for Texas. So everywhere he goes, he tells people what he wants to hear. But I know Texas had the last crack at him in terms of getting him on campus. And there's a lot of confidence in Austin. So I'm basing my FutureCast pick on that intel, if you will, kind of reading between the lines a little bit. I've got Nick Brooks picking Texas on Friday. I've got him at, what I put him at, 70%. But he's a bit of a wild card. I mean, even people in Austin that I checked with said, hey, we feel great about our chances. But it's a long way till signing day. This guy clearly changes, from week to week. He's been known to change his mind. So we'll see what happens between now and December. But as things stand right now, I favor Texas.
All right, Jason, somebody sent this chat in earlier, and I want to kind of use it to ask you a follow-up. Drew says, so being a realist and understanding Michael is likely not going to Texas, Fasusi, of course, what players should we still be excited / hoping for? To play off of Drew's question here, if Brooks does end up picking Texas and Fasusi does not this week, just on its face Friday night, how much of that Fasusi void would you say that Nick Brooks helps to fill for a Texas fan? How excited would you tell them to be? It's gonna suck for them they didn't get Fasusi, but how much of that do you get back with Nick Brooks?
Well, you're a 380-pound guy. You certainly fill a pretty big void, right? But
you can fill a gap. You can fill a gap.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good question. He's a Rivals 250 guy. Okay, so he's a highly ranked guy. I mean, listen, when you're battling Georgia and USC for a guy, that tells you he's highly coveted, right? I think he's a guy with high upside, but there's a little bit of risk when a guy is that big. You got to kind of monitor. The same was said about Cam Williams in high school. It's like, okay, can he monitor that weight? Can he keep it in check? And he has. But yeah, I mean, Brooks he's a really, really good prospect, but he's a bit of a, like he played in Cedar Rapids. I'm curious to see how he plays this year in Georgia at his new school. Because he doesn't have, I have not been able to find like a true highlight film. You see like game highlights for him. You can watch those. You're like, okay, that's a big boy that can do some damage, obviously. But to your point, like how much of the void does he fill? It'd be a good get for Texas. He would be their best offensive line commitment of this cycle. But I'm not going to change my tune now just because I'm not expecting Fasusi to pick Texas. It would be disingenuous of me to say, oh, missing Fasusi is not a big deal, because I've been saying for 3 months he is the biggest deal for me because I think he's that good of a player. So Nick Brooks would be a very good get. I think he'd be a starter for Texas at some point. But Michael Fasusi, in my eyes, Chad, is an all-conference, potential All-American, potential first-round pick. I think he's that good. I think his upside is that high, and he's a guy that I think will meet his upside, will reach his upside. So, I don't know how to quantify that for people. How much of the void would it fill? 70%, I guess. But there's still going to be a part of me that looks back at this class if Fasusi sticks with his commitment. Okay, he may switch in October, but let's say in December, if Fasusi signs with Oklahoma or A&M, I'm going to look back at this class and say, okay, that was a really good Texas recruiting class, but you didn't get Michael Fasusi. There's still going to be a little bit of a void there.
So, again, that's Fasusi and Brooks, the two offensive linemen. Fasusi today on Wednesday, 3 o'clock, and then Friday. We have a time for Nick Brooks yet on Friday?
No, I have hit him up, but I can't even get a response on that question.
Okay, fair enough. Mr. Communication. I got you. All right, so let's get to you've already mentioned Jonah Williams, and Jason, I am wearing the Buck shirt today for Mike Evans. It's his birthday today.
Oh, nice.
He's my favorite Galveston ball product of all time for some obvious reasons. But let's get to this next.
I should have worn my Casey Hampton. I have a Casey Hampton Steelers jersey. I should have worn it. Yeah.
That's a good one. That is a good one. But let's get to this next Galveston ball guy we've been talking about. We've been talking about Jonah for a while now. He's going to commit on Saturday. And where are you on Jonah Williams? Because I know there's more than just Texas looking at this guy. He's a big timer.
Yeah, he's Saturday at 6:30. Jonah was polite enough to at least tell me the time, so I know when to be around my computer. But Saturday night at 6:30. Where I'm at, Chad, I've got my pick on Texas, okay? And I put it, I put my confidence level at 51% is all. So it's basically a coin toss for me. But I did pick Texas, but I said, hey, I don't mind admitting sometimes you just have to say, I don't know. And it's okay to say that. Some people want to act like they know everything all the time in this industry, and it's just impossible. I don't know where Jonah Williams is going to pick. I think it's going to be Texas. And this is me reading the tea leaves a little bit. At one time, I've said this before, people were saying he's a lock for Oklahoma. And Jonah kind of scoffed at that, right? And then he was a lock for A&M. And then all these crystal balls or whatever came in for Oregon. And then everybody was saying he's a lock for LSU in June. Okay. And then he visits Texas in late July and he tells Orange Bloods directly, hey, Texas is in my top 3. And then he ends up not visiting LSU. He's supposed to go to Texas on Thursday. And then I think it was LSU like on Saturday. Well, he ended up not going to LSU. So that has people in Baton Rouge nervous. The baseball angle, which I've said for, a month or more, it's a part of the equation. It's not the deciding factor that everybody has made it out to be. And people are saying, oh, is he even going to play football? He's going to go somewhere where he can play, baseball is a huge part of that. Well, no, I've always said, no, I'm hearing it's more of a football decision. Baseball is very much secondary. Okay, I'm sticking to that. But getting Schlossnagle in Austin doesn't hurt, right? I mean, if he wants to do both sports in college, which he does, having a coach that had been recruiting him at A&M, had a good relationship, had built a powerhouse program, that coach is now in Austin. That helps Texas. So the signs on this one, Chad, to me are pointing towards Texas as much or more than anybody else. So I've got my pick is going to be Texas, but it's 51%. I'm basically admitting, hey, I don't really know. I mean, it could be any one of these 5 schools that I mentioned, and I'm not going to rule out any of them. Okay. Ultimately, I think it'll be Texas. I still think Texas A&M's in play. I think LSU, if I had to pick, I think it'll be Texas or LSU. But if he said, I'm going to USC, I'm going to Oregon, I'd be like, okay, didn't see that coming, but makes sense because Jonah is not telling anybody. Nobody seems to have a firm grasp on what he's going to do. I just think Texas is surging at the right time. Texas hasn't used its official visit. He can still come into Austin for an official visit. So I'm favoring Texas, Chad, but I don't feel great about making any strong prediction on Jonah Williams.
Jonah Williams keeping the drama built up. Yeah. Some of the guys do like to do that. All right, it's the recruiting hour on this Wednesday. On Fasusi Day, we are updating. Jason updated some FutureCasts on the 321 article at orangebloods.com this week. We are going through those. We've hit 3 of them. There are still 3 to go. Real quick, let's thank Specs for their great partnership. It is the Specs chat every day. Damn near 300 people piled in there right now. Don't forget about Specs.
Specs same-day delivery can save the day with our Specs app or online shopping. From world-class wines to hard-to-find spirits and craft beers to gourmet foods, delicious snacks, and spectacular sweets. It's Specs. Cheers to savings.
Yes, indeed. Get yourself all stocked up. First weekend of college football, not the massive weekend, a little taste of college football, including Florida State and Georgia Tech from Ireland. That's a real thing. That's actually happening.
Hey, what time is that game? I don't know if you.
11 a.m. 11 a.m. ESPN. It'll follow. They're doing game day from Dublin, and they're going right to the game.
Man, I've got to go pick up some food for the smoker. I got to just make a day of it, right? I know it's kind of the only game. There's some other games, but even one game of college football, Chad, I'm going to plant my butt on this couch that I'm right over here beside me and just make a day of it and put some food on the smoker. It's good. It's always like a holiday, right? When college football.
Oh, yeah.
Off, right?
Yeah. By the time we get to SMU in Nevada in the evening, it won't feel that the same.
I'll still watch it.
At 11 a.m. Right. We'll still watch it. We will still watch a little bit because it is that little bit of a morsel that we will take. Thanks to Specs for everything that they do for us. Before we get back into some FutureCasts here, I wanted to put this chat up, Jason, and you tell me, is this a fan flipping out a little bit? Or is this a fair comment and something to maybe keep an eye on? Our man Harish jumps in and says, It's time to start looking at Brandon Harris very closely. Is that alarm bell a little too soon? Or would Texas fans be right to look at that rearrangement of the recruiting staff and say, hey, could that be a part of this?
I think that's fair. Okay. I don't want to sit here and bash a dude necessarily, but listen, I mean, I think everybody in that recruiting department, if Texas misses on Fasusi, if they don't get Jonah Williams, which is possible, needs to be under the microscope a little bit. It's not just Brandon Harris. I mean, Brandon is no longer technically in the recruiting department. He's I forget what his title is now. Is he is the general manager or something, I think is his title. I can't even, maybe you can look that up. But
you might be right.
Manager, he was
or whatever.
Yeah, he was director of recruiting, and he got promoted. They created a new position for him. So, you got a lot of people in that recruiting department. It's not just Brandon Harris. So, but does he need to be looked at? Does him and others? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's interesting when Brandon was director of recruiting. The last couple of years, Texas signed top 5 classes. He gets promoted, new people get brought in, new people get new responsibilities. New people get, I don't think new people got brought in necessarily, but they get promoted with new responsibilities. And this thing's not going the way everybody expected it. I think everybody. We're talking coaches, Sark himself. Everybody probably needs to look in the mirror and be like, hey, what's going wrong here? What's not working for us? All that being said, it is August. People in Austin will tell you, hey, we're not worried about it. Check back with us in November and December. But I get it. But I've said this before, Chad. You've heard me say it. You'd rather be on the other side of that equation. You'd rather have DeCorey Moore in your camp. You'd rather have Michael Fasusi. You'd rather have Riley Pettijohn on your commitment list, and you're having to fend off other teams, right? So I get it. It's August. It's not December. The ink is not dry on these letters of intent, but you're not in a position of strength if these players are committed elsewhere. So the direct question, does Brandon Harris need to be looked at? Well, yeah, but Brandon's part of the equation, but so are 100 other people in those football offices. So, let's see. Hey, you know what? We do the show next Wednesday, Chad. We may be singing a totally different tune. Texas may have a 5-star commitment, a Rivals 250 commitment. Who knows? I mean, Michael Terry just makes a commitment out of the blue. I mean, this may be a totally different discussion next week. So, I don't want to sit here and hit the panic button just yet, but yeah, things are on a little bit of shaky ground right now.
All right, Jason, let's hit some more future casts here. Let's get to another guy that we know the day. It is next Friday. So it's the day before Texas plays their first game. I'm assuming that's the first day that most high schools are playing their first games around the country. And that would include Jaime Ffrench, the wide receiver out of Florida. Next Friday is his commitment announcement. Is he the one you told me it's his mom's birthday and that's why he's doing it that day?
Yes, that's exactly right. It's his mom's birthday. Yep.
Gotcha. You know what he should do? If they do have a game, it should be like a after the game, assuming they win, but after the game, like he and his mom, send out a video on social media. Just a thought, Jamie. What do you think? What do you think Mr. Ffrench is going to do?
Well, listen, Jaime Ffrench is a well thought out young man. He's very intelligent. So he'll have a plan. So whatever he does, he will have a plan. He won't be just flying by the seat of his pants. So he may do exactly what you said. I don't know what his plan is, but he will have a plan. What I'm thinking on Jaime Ffrench, I'm picking Texas still. I had Texas at 65% was my confidence level. And I still, that was on when I wrote that on Sunday and posted on Monday night, I think. I still feel about the same. I still think Texas about 65%. I think Miami is still a threat there. I mean, listen, we're 9 days away, right? So that one could still have some movement. I mean, a lot of these recruitments nowadays aren't decided sometimes until the day the player announces. I mean, there's with NIL and so many things going on behind the scenes, there's a lot of pull both ways, both directions. So I think it's going to be Texas or Miami. I favor Texas. I know LSU is still in play there. Tennessee's technically still in play. I don't think Tennessee is a factor. Jaime Ffrench himself has said, hey, it's probably going to be Miami or LSU. I don't buy it, Chad. I mentioned he's an intelligent kid. I think he's trying to kind of throw people off, maybe drum up some excitement, drum up some suspense. There's confidence in Austin. He, for a long time, had Texas as his leader going into the summer and throughout most of the summer. I'm kind of just following along the footsteps of people in Austin who feel like, hey, we feel like that one's going to work out for Texas. So Jaime himself is kind of saying otherwise, but just again, I think it's a smokescreen by Jaime. There's confidence in Austin. People who are connected to that recruitment seem to think it's going to be Texas. So I feel pretty good about Texas, but I'm a little leery of Miami maybe making a late push there. But I do think that one's going to wind up working out for Texas.
Jason, call me a sicko, but I really enjoy listening to you flesh that all out. The idea that the kid may be doing that, and then you're trying to double check and double guess on what the kids. There's something just fantastic about that.
Dude, trying to read the minds of
it's
what are these guys, 16, 17 years old right now, most of these guys. So we're talking about our teenagers, right? You understand, right? So they're unpredictable. Yeah. So it's a very inexact science. I feel like I've got a pretty high hit rate over the course of my career, but like I will always say, like, even if a kid tells me, Chad, if a kid tells me directly, I am committing to Texas tomorrow, you will never hear me say that is 100% Texas. I'm still going to say 90% because things can change. He may wake up tomorrow morning and have a change of heart. So I don't think I've ever put anybody like, no, it's a 100% stone cold lock to go here. I feel pretty strongly about some guys, but I'm never going to say 100% anything when it comes to predicting what a teenager is going to do.
There you go. Keep that in mind. Jason Sukamel will never put a mortgage payment on any of these predictions at 100%.
When I do my recruiting board, everybody's like, well, your percentages are too low. And I'm like, okay, well, I talk to these kids. A, you don't. And B, I mean, if I go like 70, 75%, that means I'm almost feeling like a lock. Okay, I can't go 85% because Ketch ruined that with his Kyler Murray prediction 15 years ago. So you'll never. One time, in fact, Chad, I put for, I don't remember who the player was, but I was like 84.99%. I didn't go 85%, but I don't think I've ever gone over. That's probably the highest I've ever gone for a player is 84.99 because you'll never see me go more than like usually 75% of these guys. So. Case in point, I've got Nick Brooks at 70%, and there's another guy we'll talk about here in a minute that I've got at 75%, which is a strong indicator because I don't go much higher than 75%.
All right, let's go back to the state of Texas here, Jason, with Michael Terry, young man out of Alamo Heights, receiver to many, but apparently there have been discussions about maybe it's something else. He's a pretty freaky dude. He can do a lot of stuff. And right now, I know you had talked at one point about maybe it's in August. Do we know if there's been a commitment? Are we figuring out maybe when it's going to happen with Michael, or is he still a mystery?
Still a mystery. Yeah, everybody, he just kept telling everybody, he told us directly, like, hey, it's going to be before my senior season starts. Well, you mentioned it. That's next Friday. So, and he still does not have a commitment date out there. I mean, listen, he may commit tonight, right? I mean, this afternoon, anything could happen, but he doesn't have, unlike these other guys we've talked about, he doesn't have a firm date out there. I'm going to decide on August 25th or whatever. So he's still a bit of a mystery man. Texas, Oregon, Nebraska. The fact that he doesn't have a date, Chad, that tells me, again, I've been doing this I'm an old man. I've been doing this a long time. Usually if a guy doesn't have a date, that usually means he's still not 100% decided. Okay. Michael Fasusi set a date 3 weeks ago or a month ago, and his mind was made up then. Jonah Williams, I mean, Jonah may tell you, he may commit on Saturday and say, oh, I just decided last night. And I'm just using Jonah as an example. But Jonah, I'm not buying it. If a guy sets a commitment date, he knows where he's going to go because they're not going to set a commitment date and force themselves to make a decision when they're not ready. So, but Michael Terry has not set a commitment date. That tells me this one's still open a little bit. I do favor Texas. Michael's really close to his parents. His parents are, heavily involved. They're the kind of parents, I don't know them, but I know people who know them well and talk to them. And they're the type of parents who would say, we're going to let you make your own decisions, son. You're a mature young man. You've made good decisions. We trust you. But boy, we sure love to have you closer to home too. So I still favor Texas over Oregon and Nebraska. He did visit all three of those programs in late August before this August dead period, late July before the August dead period set in. So I'm favoring Texas, but we're still kind of waiting for him to schedule an announcement, and that tells me there's still some open-endedness to this one, where Nebraska and Oregon are still in play. don't have a whole lot new there. I'm still kicking the tires on that one. It might still happen this month, before his senior season begins. We got a week and a half. But right now, we're still kind of just waiting on pins and needles for A, an announcement date, B, obviously where he's going to commit to go to college.
All right, so there's Michael Terry. We'll still kind of wait and see exactly when that commitment could come. But again, Jason's saying the future cast right now would be leaning Texas. One more, Jason, that you included in the article, and I do dig this name, Aidan Anding, the cornerback out of the state of Louisiana. They got a little talent over there in Louisiana. What's your latest on him?
Yeah, Aidan Anding, really good cornerback out of Ruston, Louisiana. This is an interesting little backstory. Okay, so Texas on, I think it was Saturday. I'm getting my days mixed up, but Cade Phillips flipped his commitment from Texas to LSU. Okay, well, Aidan Anding is looking at LSU, Texas, Arkansas to some degree, and he's still trying to decide, like, A, when he's going to announce, and B, which of those schools he's going to pick. A long time ago, going back into like June, he was really close to committing to Texas. Really, really close. Well, then LSU offered like at the last minute, and he said, you know what, I'm going to take a step back, kind of reevaluate things. He ends up visiting LSU in late July when that little window opened up that we've been talking about. And I talked to Aidan last week, and he said, hey, man, I'm really torn between these schools, mostly LSU and Texas. I'm really torn. Well, Cade Phillips flips from Texas to LSU. Aidan Anding comes out and says, hey, I'm going to announce my commitment on Saturday. He's announcing the same day as Jonah Williams. Chad, when I wrote my 3-2-1 on Sunday evening, I wrote a little snippet, and I had him picking Texas. And I said, hey, I think Cade Phillips flipping to LSU, him now Aidan Anding being ready to decide, just makes sense, right? I think it's going to be Texas. Well, Monday, literally, I'm in the car, like moving my daughter, and I started texting with a source, and they're like, nope, I think it's going to be LSU. So I had to pop my laptop open. Wow. And go in there and edit my story real quick. And now I've got my confidence level is LSU, and I've got 75% confidence level. So, wow. So that's pretty high for me, as I just mentioned a few minutes ago. So, I said I thought this one would take a turn in UT's direction when Cade Phillips flipped his commitment from Texas to LSU, but sources on Monday were still confident in LSU keeping Aidan Anding in state. But, we're talking about recruiting, just how things change, and you have to stay on top of things because things can change in a heartbeat. Well, then that was on Monday. Today's Wednesday, so things maybe I should follow up. Things might have changed again. But as of Monday, yeah, that thing still was looking like LSU, and it was a surprise for me. I mean, I'd already written a little snippet saying, hey, he's going to go to Texas, and I had to go in and edit my story. And as of right now, I'm still predicting LSU with a pretty strong confidence.
Interesting. All right, so that's Aidan Anding, and we don't know exactly when a commitment's coming with him, do we?
I don't. Aidan's really open. He's an awesome kid. He's just been a treat to cover. So I can get that information. I'll try to work on that today. I don't know when on Saturday, but it's going to be Saturday at some point.
Gotcha. So there are some FutureCast updates for you. If you want to check out all the comments that Jason made there, check out the 3-2-1 article. That is not all that's in the 3-2-1 article. Each time that article comes out, Jason, remind us everything, how the 3-2-1 is structured and what else is in there this week that people may want to check out.
Yeah, the 3-2-1, it's a weekly column that I do usually every Tuesday. Sometimes it fluctuates depending, but it's 3 things we've learned this week. It's 90% of it's going to be recruiting related, of course. 2 questions. Hey, what's the latest with this commitment? Or I'll also talk just some team football stuff. So 3 things we learned, 2 questions, and then 1 prediction. Sometimes it's a commitment prediction. Sometimes I interject some personal stuff. I interjected some personal stuff this week just about my kids driving me crazy, but moving and the stuff we talked about at the top of the show. So a little bit of hodgepodge, but it's probably 80-90% recruiting related. A once a week column that I write on Orange Bloods.
And then the one at the end is a prediction every week, correct?
It's a prediction, yeah.
There you go. So check that out at orangebloods.com. And like Jason said earlier, if you want a great deal to get in on Orange Bloods, season's about to start. 60% off for your first year of an annual subscription. Kickoff 2024 is that code. Jump on in, find out what everybody's been talking about with orangebloods.com. Craziest message board in the world. And right now, at orangebloods.com, the auction is going on, the silent auction to benefit Texas baseball NIL. Want to put your money where your mouth is? You've been talking like you love NIL all this time, big Texas fan. It's a great way to get involved. Just an example, there was a helmet signed by Vince, Ricky, and Earl. It went for a little bit. That went for a little bit in the silent auction. You get that kind of cool stuff. How about golf with Keith Moreland and why can't I think of his name? I don't remember
Swindell, who's on the
Swindell. Thank you, Greg Swindell. I'm sorry, Greg. Your name just jumped out of my head. Golf with Moreland and Swindell. That was an item in day 2. Day 3 is going on right now. Orangebloods.com. Check that out.
I mean, the stuff that they were able to get for the silent auction is pretty remarkable. I mean, I guess online auction is pretty remarkable, and it's some really cool stuff. And I mean, yes, you're helping the baseball program, you're helping NIL, but you're also getting some badass stuff.
You really are.
For honestly pretty good rates too. So go on there and check that out on orangebloods.com for sure.
Yeah, some good stuff there. All right, Jason, before we wrap up, I did want to get your thoughts. I believe this happened yesterday. Your thoughts on Andrew Marsh picking Michigan?
Yeah, he kind of randomly announced yesterday. It was his late father's birthday yesterday, so that makes sense. Originally, he was going to do it in October, and I always get this screwed up. That's Veterans Day, or is it Memorial? Veterans Day, right?
Veterans Day is November.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay, he was going to do it in November and Veterans Day, again, to honor his late father who was in the military. But he ended up doing it yesterday on his father's birthday. My thoughts, Chad, kind of saw it coming going back to the summer. I mean, he visited Michigan on an official visit in June. And I don't know that he silently committed on that visit, but I think he, for all intents and purposes, he probably did. He still took some other visits. He still talked up other schools. I saw Andrew at the Rivals 5-star, and he was still talking to Texas frequently, but it was always looking like Michigan. And I forget what the comment he said. Oh, well, that's right, because he's looking at committing in November. And when I talked to him at the Rivals 5-star in Jacksonville, he said, and that was when he kind of first put this out there. He said, yeah, I might move my commitment up to the summer. And I said, oh, okay, that's interesting because we've always been hearing November. And I said, what's the reasoning for that? Is there a reason? He goes, oh, I just kind of want to get up there and start working with the guys. And I'm thinking, up there seems to indicate up north, right? Michigan. So did he slip up a little bit? I don't know. But that one had been trending to Michigan for a while. And I'll say this, I don't know. I'm going to look real quick, Chad, if you don't, I'm sorry, if you can bear with me. I don't know what Andrew is. Okay. He's rated as a 5.9, which is 6.1 is a 5-star. So he's number 60 nationally. I think he might be underrated. I think Andrew Marsh is really, really good. He's 60 nationally is pretty lofty ranking, but dude, I've seen him again at the Rivals 5-star. I've seen him at all these other camps. I've seen him in action. That guy just gets it done and he makes it look easy. So I think it's a really, really good pickup for Michigan. Texas fans will say, oh, he was kind of on the back burner, and he was. They got Jaime Ffrench, Khalil Lockett, but he's a guy Texas would have loved to have had. But he visited Texas a ton, but never just kind of gave that vibe that Texas was going to be the pick. So I wasn't surprised that Michigan was the pick at all. I was a little surprised that it happened yesterday. I wasn't expecting to get that notification yesterday, but as soon as I saw it, I was like, okay, that makes sense. It seemed like more of a matter of when he was going to pick Michigan rather than if he was going to pick Michigan.
So, Jason, I was going to work up to this type of question, and then Xavier helped us out with a super chat. Thank you, Xavier. Super chat, $5. Does UT finish with a top 5 class? My question to you, Jason, was going to be if all your future casts hit the way your percentages are lined up right now, and Texas gets that much of that group, do you think that would put it into a top 5 discussion for the class?
I do. If all those things come to fruition, I think Texas gets a top 5 class. And Xavier, thank you very much for the super chat. But I'm going to say this, Chad. I think it kind of hinges on Jonah Williams. Okay. He's a guy that can be a real swing component for this class. I mean, you get a 5-star, bona fide 5-star. I'm assuming Jonah's a 5-star on across the board on every network. I don't know that. But obviously he is for Rivals. That's a type of dude that can really elevate this class. But if you don't get Jonah Williams and you don't get Michael Fasusi and you didn't get DeCorian Moore and you didn't get Riley Pettijohn, these are all 5-star guys. It's probably not going to be a top 5 class. So, Xavier, that's a really tough question because I'm predicting Texas to get Jonah Williams, but I'm admitting publicly I don't really know. I don't have a high level of confidence in that prediction. But if my predictions come true, if they get Michael Terry, if they get Jonah Williams, if they get Nick Brooks, if they get Jaime Ffrench, these are all highly rated guys who can kind of swing that ranking, pretty dramatically, give it a boost. Yeah, I think it'll be a top 5 class, but there's still some mystery, So Xavier, hey, check in next week. We'll have a much better feel on the answer to that question when we do the show next week. So, but if I'm predicting right now, I'm going to go yes, but my confidence level in that prediction, I would say, is mediocre.
All right, Jason, a couple other quick chats before we wrap up. Somebody sent one in about Jonah Williams since we were just talking about him. What's a comp for Jonah? Is he a day one college ready guy from Douglas?
He is day one college ready. He's big. He's athletic. He's just got a good sense for the game. Jonah's a tough one to comp because, Rivals still list him as a linebacker. Okay. He wants to play safety. Teams are recruiting him as if they're going to play him at safety. That's a really good question. DeMarvion Overshawn would be a good comp, but he's a much more athletic DeMarvion Overshawn. And DeMarvion was very athletic, but I think he's a maybe slightly bigger, more athletic DeMarvion Overshawn, but he kind of has that same body style, that same playing capability, but he's more athletic. Jonah could be a threat as an offensive weapon, as a receiver, as a running back. He can do it in the return game. But he kind of has that similar playing style. He'll hit you. He's athletic in the defensive backfield or as a linebacker, but I think he's much more, but he's a more athletic DeMarvion Overshawn. So that's a good question. He's a tough guy to find a comp for because he's a very unique player.
All right, Jason, before we wrap up, let's get back around to where we started here. Callan says, Jason, would you be shocked today if Fasusi picked Texas, or are you ruling it out? That's an interesting way to phrase it. Would it shock you if Fasusi picked Texas?
Yes, it would, Callan. I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but don't listen. He's announcing at 3 p.m. I'm going to be paying attention just because I want to see where he picks. But if you're a Texas fan, don't set your clock around it. Okay, don't revolve your day around him.
Don't take off work. Don't take off work for that.
Don't take off work. Yeah, don't get yourself in trouble with your wife. Don't miss kid pickup at school. Whatever you got going on at 3, go ahead and do it. Yes, I would be shocked if he picked Texas today.
Callan, thank you for that chat. Thanks to everybody who jumped in the Specs chat. And again, we will remind you, check out that 3-2-1 article from Jason at orangebloods.com. Also in there, Texas just threw out some offers to some defensive tackles, three-star defensive tackles right now, according to the rankings. Jason lays out one of the interesting stories on one of those guys and gives you information on all of them in that article. So check it out at orangebloods.com. And one more time, let me throw Hook'em up there because, first of all, it'll just make you think game day is coming up, right? We're only 10 days away from kickoff as I throw this up. There's Hook'em. He's on Orange Bloods, verified. I know he's got an account. There's tons of accounts that say Hook'em. One of them's got to be him. 60% off your first year of your annual subscription. Kickoff 2024 is that code. Jason, anything else we need to hit before we get out of here?
No, someone in the chat asked about Madden Faraimo, the linebacker edge out of California. Not a whole lot new. South KMX. Wish I had some new information. I'm going to try to kick the tires on that one, maybe for the War Room on Thursday on Orange Bloods. But right now we're still just kind of in waiting mode for him. Everybody thought he was going to commit this summer. It's not looking like that now. He's just not ready. kind of like I said with Michael Terry, that tells me he's still kind of struggling with this decision. I think it's going to be Notre Dame or Texas. I feel pretty confident in that. There was a time when people thought he was basically silently committed to Notre Dame, but that Texas visit made such a strong impression on him that, 2 months later, nearly, I mean, he's still really torn. So still just kind of waiting on an announcement from Faraimo. He said, like, hey, I'm not going to be forced into anything before I'm ready, and I'm just not ready. So again, kind of like Michael Terry, it could be this week, it could be October, it could be November, but I think it's going to be Texas or Notre Dame. I know Notre Dame was extremely confident before he took his Texas official visit. Now Notre Dame is extremely nervous. So, where does that one wind up? I don't know the answer just yet, but I think it's going to be Texas or Notre Dame.
And by the way, Jason, just in case you saw this, I need you to ignore Craig.
I did see that. No,
Jason, can you please change your cap? It seems every time you wear the blue Adidas, you bring us bad news. Craig, 2 things. Number 1, that is just silly. There's no way a cap is going to bring you bad luck. And 2, remember, if you ask him to change it, it goes to a Yankees hat. Nobody needs that.
Not with the way the Yankees are playing lately. It might not.
As a Yankee hater from way back, I don't need to see any more Yankee logos than I already see.
But hey, he's not wrong. But hey, I wear this hat pretty much every day, and I've worn it when guys have committed to Texas. So you got to take the good with the bad. Everybody gives me grief, and I get it because I wear this hat every day. I don't even know why I picked this hat, where I got this hat, and there's no special meaning. I just somehow found it one day, and I was like, I'll just throw that on, and it's just pretty much stuck to my head ever since. So
there you go. It becomes the thing. It's like,
my kid gave me this hat on my birthday. No, it's just I don't even remember where I bought it or why I bought it, or I think I was like just traveling one day. I was like, damn, I need a hat because it's hot and it's sunny. So I just grabbed a hat at whatever. Dick's Sporting Goods or something, and ever since then it's been my go-to hat. Yes.
And now it's your signature. Does George Strait walk on stage without his hat? No. Does Jason Sukamel do Orange Bloods live without his hat? No.
Yes, exactly.
You got to get ready to go.
But he's probably right here. Craig is probably right. I probably need to freshen up my I don't have them up here. I probably got about 30 hats. Honestly, I don't need to freshen up my collection.
Okay.
I just need to freshen up which ones I actually wear. So.
As long as we don't go too heavily on the Yankees, I'm fine. As long as it doesn't find its way to the Bronx too much.
Now that you said that, I'm going to start wearing a Yankees hat all the time.
Now you're going to have like Babe Ruth stuff, and you're going to do the blue and the green and the purple.
Oh, yeah, dude. Hey, we started off the show talking about moving my daughter to college, okay? And I'm going to circle back to that. So she frustrated me, but I'm also proud of her. We moved her into her dorm. Well, her roommate moved in 2 days before my daughter did. So I walk into her dorm room, and her roommate's side of the dorm, it's all pink. And I mean, bed skirts and pillows and things on the wall. And I'm like, oh my goodness, is this what a girl? My son had nothing in his dorm when I moved in last year. Yeah. So my daughter, we set her up, and I put a fridge in, and I assembled some shelves and things. And I said, okay, I'm going to run to Walmart and get a few things. And I come back, and my daughter had put on her wall. Mind you, her roommate and most other college girls have all this girly stuff. Mm-hmm. My daughter had this hat rack, and she had about 10 New York Yankees hats hanging on the wall. She bought it off of eBay. She bought I think it was New York Post when Aaron Judge hit his 62nd home run and broke the record. Yeah. She has the actual newspaper hanging on her wall, some other New York Yankees stuff. She had a Black Crowes album, the vinyl album cover. And she's got the album halfway hanging out. So I'm like, all right, Cora, kick-ass job on decorating your room. So it was. She took a lot of crap down there. It was a pain in the ass moving her in. But when she got her room decorated, I'm like, that's my girl right there, right? So,
Jason, I do not normally endorse Yankee stuff, but I will endorse that Yankee stuff when you're pairing it with the Black Crowes and you're fighting the pink monster on the other side of the room. Yes. I'm all for it.
Black Crowes and an Eagles album cover she also has. Yeah, so I was like, hey, that's my girl. I was like, that's pretty cool. Yeah. So.
Excellent. Hotel California and Shake Your Moneymaker all at the same time.
Shake Your Moneymaker that's exactly what she had. So.
There we go. All right. It's good stuff, as somebody said.
It sounds like Wednesday. No, my girl's not like Wednesday's she's wears all black and stuff. No, that's definitely not my daughter. But She's got good taste in baseball and good taste in music. I'll give her that much.
Yeah, he said Black Crows, not death metal.
Yeah,
It's not like something that you think that's what my kid would be at some point, throwing up actually my kid's going to be just Taylor Swift on that side of the room when we get to that part. Thanks to everybody for jumping in the chat today. Also, thank you for liking, subscribing, getting your notifications. We got up over 20,000 subscribers. Let's keep adding on. We appreciate that. It really helps us out. It is free for you to be a subscriber to Orange Bloods Live and help us out on the channel. Football with Friends comes up at 6 this evening. Of course, you got House Divided coming up at 12 in a little over an hour. Catch jumps back in with me. Who knows? Maybe we grab Anwar. I heard that discussion at the end of the show this morning. They might have more to talk about, but definitely a lot of recruiting stuff to get to. Catch's updated thoughts on Fasusi and his announcement at 3 o'clock, and then what else is coming for Texas, and kind of a what's going on in recruiting right now for Texas, because it does feel a little strange to some people. We'll hit all that. Football with Friends is at 6, and you got the Outsiders tonight at 8:30. We're going to focus on defense and Anthony Hill, which has kind of been a theme of the week this week, as number 0 is getting a lot of attention. We'll hit some of that tonight, so bring your drink and hit us tonight with the Outsiders. And Jason and I will be back next week. It'll be game week next time we talk to you in the recruiting hour, plus the Fasusi, Brooks, Williams decisions. The commitments will all be done, and the French commitment, which sounds like a movie, but it's not. The French commitment will be coming up that Friday. So we're going to have a lot going on until next Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. This is the Recruiting Hour.